Welcome to the 2016 Biotechnology Debate. Our competitors will be Charles Chucky P. Price and Sarah Full of Knowledge. Coming in at
6'8", we have Charles Chucky P. Price.
Thank you, sir.
And the challenger for this debate is Sarah Full of Knowledge, coming in at
325 pounds.
Thank you, sir.
First, we will hear from the affirmative.
Hello, I, Charles Price, the affirmative, will prove to you today that biotechnology is improving the health equity of this nation. Biotechnology is defined as the means by which biological systems or organisms are manipulated to produce a useful product, often affecting health and nutrition. Advancements through outlets such as genomics, personalized care, and tumor profiling are greatly improving disease prevention. Thank you.
All right. Now to the negative side.
I, Sarah Full, will be arguing that although there are admittedly some positive aspects, overall biotechnology is a detriment to society. My reasons for this stance include the negative health effects of genetically modified foods, proven by evidence from scientific studies, the increasing cost of treatment due to biotechnological advances, and the possibility of overdiagnosis or misdiagnosis.
The affirmative side will now share their first argument.
My first argument, I will be speaking on genomics. Specifically, genetics-based medical research is in the spotlight as the Office of Public Health Genomics works to improve disease prevention. Genomics has been implemented in prevention of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and Lynch syndrome. A new genetic technology allows scientists to actually delete mutant genes and replace them with healthy ones. This allows the vanishing of diseased genes, according to Jill Adams. A group of Chinese scientists actually came up with this process, and they're calling it CRISPR. And they hope to use CRISPR gene therapy to, in the future, treat sickle cell anemia and cystic fibrosis. In cancer care, genetic testing is used to identify carriers of a mutation. Microarray analysis, a method used to evaluate the expression or genomic alteration of multiple genes simultaneously. According to Erica Santos, this is used in the analysis of cancer tumors by comparing normal tissues with cancerous tissues.
The negative side will now share their first argument.
For my first point, I'll be talking about the negative health effects of genetically modified foods. Multiple studies have shown that genetically modified foods do in fact have negative health consequences. The American Academy of Environmental Medicine urges all doctors to prescribe a non-GMO diet for patients in their care. The AAEM cites animal studies that have shown organ damage, gastrointestinal and immune system disorders, accelerated aging, and infertility. There have also been human studies that reveal that genetically modified food can leave material behind inside of us which would cause possible long-term damage. For example, the toxic insecticide produced by genetically modified corn was found in pregnant women and their unborn fetuses. The Institute for Responsible Technology, a world leader in educating policymakers and the public about genetically modified organisms, recently released a study finding that genetically modified foods cause conditions such as intestinal permeability, imbalanced gut bacteria, impaired digestion, and damage to the intestinal wall. These conditions can trigger or exacerbate diseases such as celiac disease. The truth is that we don't know enough about genetically modified foods to say whether or not they are healthy for human consumption. GMOs first hit the grocery store shelves just 20 years ago. There's no way to know the long-term effects that they may have on human health.
And now we will hear the affirmative second argument.
So for my second argument, I will be focusing on personalized care, also known as precision medicine. The National Cancer Institute refers to personalized care as a form of medicine that uses information about a person's genes, proteins, and environment to prevent, diagnose, and treat disease. Biomarkers, or individualized genomic risk information, according to Jack E. James, such biomarkers have been used to accurately predict cardiovascular disease. Utilization of personal knowledge of patients, such as biomarkers or individual proteins, is allowing scientists and doctors to effectively treat patients and these factors have increased the effectiveness of disease treatment. In regards to pharmacogenomics, which is the analyzation of individual variation in responses to therapeutic drugs with aim of maximizing efficiency and minimizing adverse reactions. A case cited by Jack E. James, this technology was utilized to identify who would yield unwanted reactions to the drug abacavir, which is actually prescribed to HIV patients. Also, this technology has been used in third world countries in identifying populations who will respond favorably or unfavorably to certain therapeutics.
And now we will hear the negative second point.
For my second point, I'm going to be talking about the cost of biotechnological innovations. According to Tufts Center for the Study of Drug Development, each new medicine costs about $1.2 billion to develop. A recent study by the center found that on average, it costs more and takes longer to develop a biologic therapy through human testing and regulatory review than it does to do the same for traditional medicines made by pharmaceutical companies. One example of these new biotechnological medicines is Avastin, which recently won approval as a treatment for lung cancer at the cost of about $100,000 per patient. This drug is meant to prolong the life of patients by only about 2 months for $100,000. Biotech companies like Genentech have been pricing patients out of the chance to live by charging astronomical prices for their medicines. According to Jerry Flanagan, the healthcare policy director for the Foundation for Taxpayer and Consumer Rights, biotech companies don't want people to know that almost 50% of this health research and development is paid for by taxpayers. Instead of spending taxpayer money to develop life-saving medicines, they are spending our money to develop biotech treatments which patients cannot even afford.
We will now hear the affirmative's third point.
For my third argument, I will be speaking on tumor profiling. And tumor profiling is defined as personalized treatment based on molecular features of a patient's tumor. And with this technology, we're capable of molecularly identifying mutations and classifying tumors using molecular markers. According to Erica Santos, there's 2 different methods of doing tumor profiling. The first is immunohistochemistry staining, or IHC. And this is a protein staining process which is used to identify diagnosis biomarkers. The second is microsatellite instability testing, or MHI. And this is uses a panel of markers to assess repetitive sequences of DNA nucleotides. These processes help determine chemotherapy treatment and identifies Lynch syndrome. It also allows cancer and tumor treatment to become personalized.
We will now hear the negative's third point.
For my third argument, I'm going to be talking about overdiagnosis and misdiagnosis due to genetic testing. If people get a genetic test done and are told that they have the genetic indicators for a disease, that may cause them undue stress for no reason at all, because they may never end up developing the disease, or there may be no way to prevent it, as is the case with Huntington's. They live with the knowledge that they are likely to develop a debilitating disease in their future, greatly reducing their quality of life right now. Also, the possibility of genetic discrimination in employment and insurance is another concern. Although there is a law in place called the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, which is meant to protect people from this kind of discrimination, it does not protect genetic discrimination in all cases. For example, it does not apply when an employer has less than 15 employees. It also does not apply to other forms of insurance other than health insurance, such as life, disability, and long-term care. In addition to this, according to the American Cancer Society, genetic tests do not always give precise answers about inherited diseases, especially breast and colon cancer. A positive test result does not mean that you will get the disease, and on the other hand, a negative test result does not mean that you will not get the disease. Also, the genetic test may be flawed, or the results can be read wrong. Since it is fairly new, genetic testing is not tightly regulated. Thus, room for error is increased.
We will now hear the affirmative's rebuttal.
Okay, so when Sarah was going through her points, cost was the main factor. And the rising cost of personalized care is obviously a concern, but I think that our health equity as a whole is worth a little extra money. If you leave it up to the patients, they'd be willing to pay extra to live, and they'd certainly be willing to pay extra to make sure that the treatment is being specialized to them. As personalized care practices become more widely practiced and researched, scientists will better the science and be able to lower the costs. And as I mentioned earlier, the time period of treatment will actually be shortened by this increased efficiency, which in the end could lower the overall cost compared to the original treatment without the personalized factor. And then in regards to genetically modified foods, there are positives to GM foods, such as the soybeans. In rural countries, we're actually modifying the nutrients in the soybeans to provide more protein and the amino acids that populations need. And we're actually sending these to poverty-stricken countries who are short on nutrients right now on foods. And just simply put, there are not enough negatives in this factor to outweigh any of the positives. And then in regards to overdiagnosis, she mentioned that the increased knowledge and personalized care is actually overdiagnosing patients and leading them into living a scared or frightful life when in reality their condition might have never progressed. But genetic testing is accurate, so we do know that whatever we're diagnosing is true. We're not misleading patients. And also, the main use of this is to treat those who already know they have a problem. Genomics and personalized care is heavily used in the treatment of diseases and not the risk assessment of diseases. So for the most part, we're using this in patients who already know they have a problem. And if someone is getting tested simply for risk, it was their choice or eagerness to do so.
We will now hear the negatives rebuttal.
One of the things that Charles talked about was personalized care. One of the problems that I see with personalized care is the ethical issues that come along with the cost of it. How is it possible to provide personalized medicine for everyone when so many people are struggling to even afford health care? Is it ethically sound to only provide personalized care for the rich and leave the poor in the dust? Another issue is that by placing such an emphasis on genomics, we are taking a reductionist approach. We shouldn't be reducing people to their DNA. One of my fears is that genetic tests will be used to determine whose life is worth living at all. Eugenics will make a comeback, and babies will be killed before they are even born because an expecting mother had a genetic test done on the fetus, and even a small genetic defect may be enough for the mother to choose to have an abortion.
In closing, I've proved today that advancements in biotechnology are a huge benefit to this nation, for it's improving our health equity through the disease treatment in cancer, cardiovascular disease, Lynch syndrome. There are several others. The increasing use of personalized care is bettering the efficiency of treatment, and it's also allowing doctors to accurately know how a single patient is going to react to any drugs that they're prescribed to them. So my 3 points that I summarized today were genomics, personalized care, and tumor profiling. And I hope that you guys have been able to see that through these 3 outlets, biotechnology is greatly improving disease prevention. Thank you.
I believe that I have successfully proven that biotechnology is not beneficial in today's society. Instead, we need to be focusing on treating people with already existing medicine and treatments that have been proven to work and are not so costly. The downsides that come with genetic testing outweigh the positives. If we keep going down this slippery slope of genetic testing, we will eventually, and already have begun to venture into the world of genetic manipulation. If someone like Kim Jong-un gets his hands on this kind of technology, what is to stop him from creating a superhuman race to destroy his enemies, such as the United States? Imagine if Hitler had access to this kind of genetic manipulation. If we continue down this slippery slope, who knows what will become of the world as we know it?